Crypto Parabellum Podcast, episode number 12. Welcome in. Today is Tuesday, October 25th, 2022. We have a full panel today. I'm your main host, Jared Phillips, with our co-hosts, Alan Eschweiler and Joel Birch. And today we are...
This is BBC News.
Okay.
We're interrupting our schedules for the following announcement. Buckingham Palace has announced the death of
the British pound, or the pound sterling.
A statement from the palace said the
pound
died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon.
Oh my goodness. Well, so there you go, guys. I don't know. I mean, we are we witnessing the death of the, what was that, the pound sterling? Well, what is happening? How you guys doing? Good morning.
You know,
your accent, your voice recorded accent on that is
the
so
sad
good.
thing is I can't even talk shit because I'm actually 100% English. As you guys both know, I was born there. My whole family's from there.
Yep.
I here on a green card with a passport, and I can't even fake a British accent. And now you're over here sounding all proper like. So I got to give you credit where it's...
Hey, everyone. Wanted to jump in here real quick and say thank you for the support. Recently, our views and listens have been going off the charts, and I wanted to thank all of you for doing that. If you are finding this content interesting or funny or, just enjoyable, do us a favor, hit the like button on the videos, subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend. As dumb as it is, it makes a huge difference for new viewers, for people checking us out. And obviously, we want to continue to grow this community, which is already off to a great start. So without further ado, enjoy the rest of the episode.
Very posh. Very posh.
Well, thank
Jared.
you. I did the best I could. The hardest part for me recording that was I was laughing while I was doing it. And I was like, all right, I got to stop. I got to start over. And like lining up the sound. But yeah, so that obviously is the BBC radio announcement from the passing of the Queen. But I put in there the death of the pound sterling. And the reason why I'm saying the death of the pound sterling or the British pound is because we have a new prime minister, gentlemen. Have you been following this at all? Have you had intrigue? Oh, dude, everybody's.
I have.
It's not my prime minister.
Of course you do. Okay. Well, then, Joel, I'm talking to you directly. Have you been following your home country? Okay, excellent.
Why would you?
Brilliant. So Rishi Sunak yesterday became or was elected. I don't honestly know the process that well, but he became the new prime minister after Liz Truss was in office for like 12 minutes amidst a ton of atrocious ideas that saw like everybody resign, and it was all running away from her. So she just cut it off, and right away they have an election. Could you imagine if we did that here in the U.S., where all of a sudden it was just like, oh, a new president, we lost faith? It'd be nice. But anyway, so we have a new prime minister in the UK. I say we because, we were colonies once before and we're all friends. And essentially, as the UK goes, the USA goes. Let's just call a spade. Here, Alan with just pure dejection on his face, disagreement coming. But let me get to my point first and why I even made that little shtick opening. Rishi Sunak immediately becomes the most crypto-friendly leader of a G7 country. Like, not even close. Obviously, G7 being the largest. Then they go up G10, G12, G20. But when he was finance minister under the last administration, one of his big things was, I want the UK to be the crypto center of Europe. And France is already trying to beat him there. We can talk about that if we want. But he said this, and this is crazy. He wants the UK. This is when he was finance minister. So let's see if he changes this tune now. When he was finance minister, he said, I want there to be a central bank digital currency in the UK by not 2040, not 2035, not 2030, 2025. That's huge.
That's very fast. Is that what he was calling the Britcoin?
I think so. The whatever we call the Britcoin, it's yet to be determined. But yeah, like a central bank digital currency. And is that necessarily news in and of itself? Not necessarily, but the ramifications of that, because we've talked, and it's been a recurring theme on this show, about adoption and people understanding how to best position themselves based on what's happening in the world, whether that be war, whether that be inflation or assets running away, or, hey, you're getting your 3% increase, but you're still losing 5% year over year. Hell, you guys have a company that's based on helping people find the correct path to stay in front. Okay, you have all this sitting out here. But the one thing we talk about as it relates to crypto is onboarding. the UK is the financial center of the world for a lot of things, insurance being one of them. Obviously, we got the stock market, but insurance being one of them. If there's all of a sudden a central bank digital currency in the UK, that will all of a sudden trickle its way out to the entire world. Quite frankly, I can't think of anything that would be a bigger deal if that actually comes to fruition. I said a lot of things, and all over Alan's face was like, so I'm going to go to Alan first. Alan, react to me.
I just don't care about UK anything. I like okay. And here's why. You're not going to do that before 2025. You're not going to do anything before 2025. Like the government is the slowest thing in existence. You're telling me that you're going to introduce a CBDC in basically 2 years. It's almost 2023, right? So like you're not going to get anything done this month. You're not going to get anything done next month. Then it's Christmas. Okay, so you're not doing anything this year. They're not going to get it done by 2025, and unless the European system is wildly different than the US system. I'm not an expert on CBDCs, but everything that I've heard about the idea of a US CBDC is that even if the Fed decided today that this is something that they wanted to do, experts have said that the absolute earliest is 8 to 10 years of testing, upgrading financial systems. Like I think, at least I didn't know this before. Maybe everyone else does, but banks infrastructure and the Fed infrastructure is on insanely old code bases, like fax machine code bases. And it's sort of like not worth upgrading. It works. Everybody's connected. It would be a massive undertaking to get everybody up to the same new system. And so unless Europe's is wildly different and newer and more modern, they're not going to do anything in 2 years. So I just think that this is talk, and I guess we'll see. But I don't think any of it will happen by 2025, much less soon. They have a million other things to worry about. They're going to be worrying about how they keep the heat on this winter, not whether they can get some CBDC launched.
Okay, so Joel, I want your input on this as well, but I have to ask you this question to set you up. Under his leadership as finance minister, he tasked the country's coin producer, the Royal Mint, with creating an NFT. If the Royal Mint creates an NFT, you buying? It's like your home country.
Nope. Definitely not buying any scam NFTs from the government. I'm with Alan on this one, man. Ultimately, though, this is grounded in my consistent belief that I've now echoed on most episodes, if not all episodes, that it kind of doesn't matter until the macro is no longer what the macro is today. No NFT launch, no adoption, no IPO, no law is going to be short-term impactful. I should say more midterm impactful to price action, which is what we care about. So like, is this great for crypto digital assets? Yes. It's incredible. As someone who runs a regulated entity that is currently in the process of working with international regulators, any clarity saves me millions of dollars and months of time. And that is going to enable me and my team to build something innovative and useful. And that is good for people. And that will bring more competition, which is also good for the market. And as a capitalist, like, all these things are good for the market, are good for or something that's good, and I think that should be said. But does that mean that the bear market will now be shorter because the UK is going to prioritize crypto in some way? No. And so that's why Alan doesn't care, and that's what he means when he says that, because it's not going to make number go up sooner. So not highest priority. Highest priority is what helps make number go up sooner for anyone who's like investing or trading. But as Alan, as an operator of a crypto business, myself as an operator of a crypto business, this is extremely exciting. We're talking about it in our Slack, like, yeah, this is great news, like, blah, blah, because that's all true. It just depends on what your perspective is and like how you're looking at it. But the average person listening to the show does not have that perspective. They just, again, they're looking for news that's going to move the needle, and this isn't it.
That's fair enough. And look, I don't think that in and of itself, this stands as something that's actionable in the way that you're defining it. but from what I've seen in this industry and from what you've all seen in this industry, like think about the last bear market, right? 2017 to 2020. What was built during that time that people were like, all right, man, an on-chain oracle, I mean, whatever, that doesn't really mean shit until we're out of a bear market. Like, why do we need, coordinated price, whatever, dude? Most of us are making our money off exchange arbitrage anyway. Why do we want an on-chain oracle? Well, then there's Link that was like, yeah, all right, fine, we'll just do our thing then. And then when it came around, Link Marines roll in and it, 1,000 X's off the bottom because of what was being built. And so I don't necessarily hold on. I don't necessarily think this is something that we step into and go, yo, this is amazing, let's roll. But what we have seen, and maybe you can disagree with me if you want, we do not have enough qualified, centralized participants to sustain the growth of crypto. We just don't. There's not enough money. There's too many people. I remember I talked, my trading mentor, which I can't use his name, but we talk every day. I talked to him about the returns I get in crypto and what I'm doing. And he's like, I'm having a pretty decent year because I'm only down 3%. He manages tens of millions of dollars, right? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm up 3x from June because crypto's amazing. And he's like, oh my God, what? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'm just trying to, okay. And I said, why don't you get involved in this? And he goes, do you understand what would happen to my fund and my license if I commingled funds that turned out being somebody that I can't do business with? My entire firm, my entire investment fund goes away overnight. I cannot touch that. I would love to. It's the easiest trading in the world if you know what you're doing. But I can't afford to even take that risk. So no. And it's like, how many funds that are managing tens of millions of dollars would say, yeah, give me qualified investment pools that I know I'm protected from? And that starts with governments wading in, right?
I would agree with that point. So back to my point earlier of when I said I don't care, it was directly in reference to CBDCs. Like I, as an individual or even as an operator, have no interest in CBDCs. I don't think they move the needle for crypto. I actually think they hurt crypto because it's basically trying to replace some of the use case. But to Joel's point, and now to yours as well, Jared, like as an operator, yes, we want to see friendly governments because friendly governments mean friendly regulators, and that means more opportunity. So yes, absolutely. That part, the fact that he is the prime minister is good, net good for crypto. But to then your other point, Jared, of you build the infrastructure now to then be utilized when the interest is back, I 100% agree with that. In fact, the episode that I would reference in the past is when we talked about BlackRock and Coinbase working together. You have to do that kind of stuff now. Oh, and then also Fidelity offering Bitcoin and 401ks, right. And sort of taking on the onus of getting that through, I would say, not approval from Congress, but just getting over the hurdles now is important because they are doing the hard work that everyone else will benefit from in 2 to 3 years. So 100% agree. It matters for those reasons. The CBDC thing is not interesting to me. It doesn't matter. I think it actually hurts crypto.
Well, hold on. Expand on that because everything you said was like, these are positives. And you mentioned like 19 things that are going to be things that help long-term, but you say short-term hurts crypto. What do you mean by that? Or maybe overall hurts crypto. Do you just mean because it takes away from the ethos of what crypto is supposed to be?
No, they're different things. Okay, so CBDCs, in my mind, hurts crypto. I'll explain why in a second. Positive governments helps crypto. And the people who are building infrastructure now that won't increase adoption tomorrow, but the rails will be there when the interest comes back are good. So there's one bad thing, CBDCs, two good things. Governments and companies, financial infrastructure. So why I think CBDCs are bad. Again, I am not a CBDC expert. So someone can, correct me and tell me I'm completely wrong. My understanding of CBDCs is they're bad for a few reasons. One, it just basically gives all of the visibility that we love/hate on the blockchain, being able to track wallets, but then also have your own assets tracked. Imagine that, but for all of your bank accounts, all of your cash. Like there is no more cash. You now use a CBDC. It's not like a CBDC is built on some blockchain and they're going to use Matic and Polygon's going to pump 10,000x because the government's using Matic. No. You have it like the Fed is going to have Fed coin, and it's going to be completely visible to and completely controllable. So anyone that decides, hey, you know what, Jared, we don't really like your opinion anymore. Kanye West got kicked out of JP Morgan / Chase. I'm not a big Kanye West fan right now. However, I don't love the fact that someone can be canceled from financial institutions. Imagine a CBDC having the power to say, we don't like your opinion anymore. We don't like your organization anymore. We don't like your business anymore. You're done. You can't transact. You can't send. You can't receive. So I don't like CBDCs for that reason. But don't be fooled that they're going to use your blockchain. They're going to use your coin. They're going to do their own system that they have complete control over, and you will have no visibility into, but they'll have complete visibility of. So that's why CBDC equal bad. The other 2 points of why I think good. We want good governments. We want friendly governments because they're going to be more open to businesses like ours and everyone else, and we will be able to innovate within some guidelines. Then what was the other thing? Oh, infrastructure. You have to put in the hard work now. You have to get over the hurdles now so that when the interest comes back, the on-ramps are easier. So the reason why last bull market was the way that it was, which was great. We saw great gains, but it could have been so much more if adoption was easier. If like you had all these financial products come out late after the interest is gone. Well, they'll now be in place. So the institutions who say, hey, we want to take advantage of the next mania will be able to onboard actual serious capital. So I'll pause there. CBDC is bad. The other 2 things good.
I mean, yeah, I
Joel,
agree.
Yeah, go ahead, Joel.
I agree. I think it sounds like we all agree at a macro level on ultimately why it's important. But yes, the last bull market was driven by speculation. I would say 90% in any real meaningful infrastructure, maybe 10%. And a reason that it was so good is because there were so many on ramps. My first ever bull market, you couldn't even buy crypto, period. Like it was so hard to get. My second bull market, every single person on ramped to Coinbase and then withdrew to Bittrex and then eventually took those gains to BitMEX and lost them all. This last bull market, we can't even name the thousands of apps that made it easy to buy crypto. So that was a great start. Couldn't do really, you could trade it, but there was no guidance, there was no rules, but it was sure as shit easy to buy. The next bull market, it's going to be easier to buy. That's great. The barrier to entry is already very low for crypto, but now the guardrails, those are being built to make it not just easier to buy, but easier to invest, more profitable, protect drawdown, better understand taxes. There's a lot of sell pressure that comes unnecessarily just due to like potential tax implications. There's just so many. There's a million things. Proper harvesting of your losses from a tax perspective. All of this sort of infrastructure is what's going to be necessary to have the next bull market. And so all of this stuff helps firms like Path and other companies, build something that people can use next time around that's going to be more than just buy crypto and then decide what to do with it, which for most people was buy crypto, which was whichever one they heard about, which was Shiba Inu or Doge or XRP or whatever, and then hold crypto. Right?
Well, all
that
of
was
us get
it.
out.
Right? Most people didn't get out. Most people just that's what they did. So I can't
Yeah.
wait for some of the stuff that we're building thanks to this sort of clarity that we can get, because it's going to give professionals an opportunity to make it more profitable for retail investors to invest long term.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think we're on the same page. We're saying the same thing. The one thing that I guess I'm curious about is if it's a CBDC, then theoretically it's built on a blockchain. Blockchain is by definition a public ledger. I don't know how something would be veiled. So like Alan, you said you wouldn't be able to see it. They'll be able to see it. So like at that point, are we talking about a government controlled ledger that also has secrecy enabled? Because like what intrigues me even more about that is I would love to know. I would love to wake up every morning and have Zach XBT being like, hey, the central bank sent a ton of money to bail this out.
Like
you know what I mean? Like that would be amazing.
It's not going to work like that. Don't confuse CBDC with crypto. It's just a digital. It's Fed coin.
So when that happens, because what I've heard speculated about the eventual the ultimate purpose for that is a situation like the pandemic, where it's, hey, we need bailout fast to consumer, but that's a pie in the sky. You think it's really just more, we'll ship it out to our institutions who can then do with it as they see fit, which is what ultimately the Fed does, right? They just allow additional cash into circulation through financial partners, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know enough about that subject, to be honest with you.
I just want to add, like, not all blockchain development has to be and use has to be public, and not all of it has to be decentralized. There's a lot of good uses for blockchain. Like, I could use blockchain internally at my company. That shouldn't be decentralized. That should be, it's my business. It should be, we can use that tech to move stuff around just at a small scale. There's also a ridiculous need for privacy, right? Like, they're, by nature, blockchains are public, and so there's all sorts of different protocols that are being developed for privacy on smart contracts or whatever the case may be, because that's absolutely pivotal. When you and I, in the future of this Web3 world, are buying our mortgage or getting our paychecks or whatever, we don't just need all of that everybody's business just because it's like, down with the establishment. No, fuck that. I want the establishment to protect my privacy. I don't want people knowing how much money I make or where it is or where it goes. So there is this like element of, there's a future, and I'm digressing just a little bit and then we'll move on, but like, there's a future where there can be a giant public decentralized Bitcoin payment network for moving money around cross globally, but then there can also be thousands of smaller blockchains that serve thousands of different purposes, that some are private, some are not, some are fast, some are slow, like whatever, like some are centralized, some are decentralized, just depending. And there's a free market by which, like, when I go to get my next mortgage, maybe I want to go through some blockchain company, and maybe their blockchain is different than the next mortgage competitor's blockchain, whereas like one gives me a better interest rate because it's public, and one gives me I'm just making shit up, but the point is, like, it's there's got to be this world where there's all this different use for it, and I think we constantly try to like fit everything into this round circle of like, well, if it's not decentralized, if it's not public ledger, like, it's not crypto, and it's like, it's not Web3, and it's like, that couldn't be further from the truth.
And people also need to get over the fact that there's going to be use cases that you don't profit from, that makes someone else money and doesn't make you money.
Yep.
Like everybody sort of like
to earn everything
gets up in arms about. No, you might just not earn, right? Like this just might be an internal blockchain that is for our company, and if you like our product, you can use it. But we have 99% of the supply, and it's going to stay that way. And don't complain about it not being airdropped, and don't complain about like rewards. Hey, we're running a business, and you can either decide to, and I'm not talking about our business in this case, but in this hypothetical that uses a blockchain, it might not be public. You might not own a piece of it. The price might not go up.
You might
we're
not
just
get
using
paid
blockchain
to work
as a
out because
blockchain.
it's not sustainable, but we will give you a badass workout app that does all kinds of shit and does it on this like private ledger that you control the data on. We're not going to pay you to walk. There's no shit coin, but it is a really good tech that like works better than the other tech and protects your data instead of selling it to Apple. Right? And that's the product, right? And that's just one of a million use cases, and that's okay.
Sure. No, I look, I'm with you. That actually harkens back to a couple episode topics we've had recently. I mean, Aptos being one of them, because essentially it's the centralized blockchain. It's the centralized blockchain. It's the I forgot my password blockchain.
Fine. That's a perfect.
I mean, really, that's what they should call it. It's the I forgot my password blockchain. That's Aptos.
For sure.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
And you don't need to own a bunch of Aptos. You just need a tiny little bit of gas.
Right.
Like I think maybe I'm just realizing this now, but like people need to get over the fact that like not everything is intended to make you money. Use something on Aptos, buy a tiny bit of Aptos for your gas, right? Like buy $1 or whatever, like Solana. Like you use very little Solana for gas.
Right.
So like you don't need much of it. You don't need to like Solana.
We're into the
you could like what's built on Solana.
Of
Yeah.
decimal
So
place.
it's
Yeah.
like, hey, this is not going to make you money, and it would be interesting if a project was just
Well,
like
every single
transparent about that.
project today
Um,
is surrounds itself with this make money idea because how it all starts with the funding. But in the future, that's just going to look very different. There's a lot less need for funding to build Web3 products now. It's a lot more open source than it ever was. There's a lot more resources out there. But then beyond that, like funding is its own separate use case. And so there is a whole separate use case of blockchain where companies, Web3 or not, can fundraise using crypto coins. Those are the coins you
Right.
should buy in with expectations of profit. Those are called securities. There will be entire exchanges around just trading security tokens. And that's a great use case. Add it to the list.
I like it.
Security tokens, I think we should do an episode on those soon, because and it would require quite a bit of like homework, but I think security tokens are going to be a thing, and they're going to be a thing this cycle, and could be a big narrative spinner. But Joel brought up a point, and he mentioned Apple, and there's a piece of news that I think is worth covering
Yeah, let's do it.
on the topic of Apple. So they made some changes to their app store. And one of them was discussing the use of NFTs in app. So a hard part of Web3 adoption on mobile phones, Apple specifically, is the App Store rake for Apple. So in case you aren't aware, when you go into the App Store and you download an app and there's an in-app purchase, Apple gets about 30% of that. Now, if you're a scale or you have a certain number of users, there's different tiers to that, but at base, 30% of that in-app purchase goes to Apple, and that's their fee for owning a market, or for owning the marketplace and establishing the marketplace and continuing that marketplace. The problem with Web3 is if you want to make a purchase and 30% of that has to go to Apple first, no one really wants to use the Apple App Store for any sort of crypto NFT Web3 project. So they came out and they said, we are okay now, and we will approve apps that allow you to look at your NFTs, mint NFTs. But if you're trading NFTs, you must use in-app Apple purchases. So that would be like your what's it called, your Apple Wallet or your Apple Card. And we are going to take 30% of it. So no one's going to trade on an app anymore, but we'll allow you to look at it. The other thing is you cannot sell an NFT in the App Store if it unlocks features of an app, because they want to own that piece of the pie. So if in Joel's example, maybe I'm like Steppen in this example, I think is probably what you're referring to, and we're going to pay you to walk and you need to buy this NFT to get access to the app. Apple says, no, we're not going to allow that. So on this point, I think it sort of gives some credibility to what Solana's wanting to do, which is put out a Solana phone, because Apple's making it clear that at least right now, today, and they don't have any competition in this Web3 space, so it's easy for them to say this, we are going to continue to own the pie. If you want to work in our ecosystem, if you want to put out a product, there's rules for that. And if you do follow the rules, we get 30% of it. Solana is saying, hey, there probably needs to be a competitor to this Apple marketplace that is Web3 focused, that would allow you to make trades without some sort of crazy rake. And so they're putting out a Solana phone, which will then also have a Solana ecosystem app marketplace. And I would imagine they're going to be incredibly friendly. The question is, how long does it take for there to be a Solana phone hack? And how do you sustain that marketplace? Who's going to buy a Solana phone unless there's like an insane killer app?
Well, great questions, Alan. Thanks for posing them to the group. Allow me to chime in. The core understanding that I have of the Solana phone is that, like most of the smartphone market, it'll be built on top of, in a similar way, like an Android, to where you would still get very likely any Google Play app, I would imagine. Like that's when I've kind of gone down the rabbit hole a little bit. So from a availability perspective, just it's hard for us to believe, because the three of us, we actually all don't, we actually, none of us are friends with anyone who texts in green bubbles. Just as like a general rule, I don't know if anyone listening knew that about the three of us, but like if you don't have an iPhone,
Fact.
cannot have my phone number. The answer is no.
That's right.
However, globally, Apple only has 16% market share, right? iOS is a very, very small percent of the global smartphone market. It's 85% other. Vivo big in China, and then just literally the vast majority of market share is a conglomeration of hundreds of smartphone developers. What that means is that there is market share to be had for Solana Phone or for any crypto phone, you name it. Definitely. If the vast majority of market share, more than double Apple's entire market share, is made up of no names that none of us have heard of, there's definitely room for that no name segment of smartphone market share to move more quickly in the Web3 direction. That's probably their best opportunity, whoever those no names are. Again, it's not Apple, it's not Vivo, it's not Google Phone, right? It's like these other, they make these phones, like it's not Samsung. There's way more risk for those companies. To move in that direction, but for that 31% of the market, this is probably the biggest area of opportunity, and whoever nails it probably has has a huge opportunity long term. So I think that it's easy to be like the Solana phone is never going to be able to like compete with the iPhone or whatever, but I would actually disagree just because of the global market being so wide open for the taking. I think there's a ton of opportunity there, especially if they can make a user experience that is familiar. I can I can download my Google apps, I can download Uber, but I can also easily
So
use Web3 apps.
you're I hear you. I would buy into that a little bit more if the price point for the Solana phone wasn't $1,000. So to me, if you're Solana and you're pricing your phone at $1,000, you're now competing with the iPhone by default. So you're 100% right. All of that other market share, those
Fair
aren't
enough. Yeah,
$1,000
definitely,
phones, right?
definitely.
Those are Android phones that are, I don't know.
In India,
I
a
honestly
lot
have
of
no
them.
150 bucks, 200. I don't know, but they're not $1,000. So I think the question is, when you buy a Solana phone, do you get access to like an Android marketplace?
That was my understanding.
I'm not interested in a phone that doesn't have Uber and Lyft and DoorDash and TradingView, and I'm trying to think of like all the apps, Twitter, all the apps I open right away. So I feel like so many crypto projects have tried this already, the phone thing. So one that I can think of is Eric Feynman, who coined himself the youngest crypto millionaire. Tried this with a phone. He put out like the Freedom phone. First went to crypto sort of as the audience. Then he went to like the MAGA gang and made it like untraceable phone. Like you're just appealing to such a small segment. I don't think the niche phones work. I could be wrong, but I will be surprised if this one works
You-
at that price point.
When Joel was talking about that as a concept, I thought to myself, yeah, that could really work, because I didn't realize that iOS penetration was so low. I would be curious what the splits are between like fully developed nations and underdeveloped. So like if you're talking about 70% of developed nations use the iPhone, like that's kind of what people are after anyway. But that doesn't mean there's not a market share that's going to be developing, and that's kind of the point. But you know what my brain immediately went to when you said that, Alan? When he said that, Alan? Everest ID, which was a wonderful idea and still is a wonderful idea. And we had a conversation with Bob once on my stream about what Everest ID was trying to do, and it was essentially focusing on biometric IDs in underdeveloped countries, because one thing they don't have is a centralized ID structure to prove who they are and actually have credit. But it's fallen on its face, because it's like, you know what, man, like we like them having these sorts of centralized functions in a blockchain scenario, but no one gives a shit. And like,
Well, it's fallen.
Fair, it's fallen on its
Go ahead.
face because Everest is not Solana. No disrespect to our boys over there, and they don't
No
have
doubt.
unlimited resources. Solana is
Okay.
uniquely positioned to actually do this. I agree. There have been many attempts, but those attempts weren't Solana. So like we can't take
Yeah,
away from
that's
the
true.
fact that this is a protocol that has hundreds of thousands of daily users in the DeFi world, millions of people buying and selling in the centralized world, and has literally unlimited money, and has just already access to literally millions and millions and millions of people who are interested in this type of thing. That might be all you need to create that small tidal wave, that small wave that grows into a bigger tidal wave in the future. They're not going to launch a phone and have massive success next year. It takes decades, long. But this is no doubt their vision. Yeah, it's going to be $1,000. A 23andMe test was like $3,200 when they launched that product. Right now it's $39.99. So there is an element.
Okay, so but
Yeah.
to that point, Joel, I guess what I would ask is there's plenty of phones out there that are basically come as a blank slate. You can get the hardware and you install the software. So, and those phones don't cost $1,000.
I hear. I'm with you on
so
that
I'm
as well,
I'm just
but those phones also aren't sweet Saga Solana phones with like dope, marketing and shit, right? Like there is an element.
Well, hold on.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. But so as an example, like to your point on the unlimited money, like I agree that they have the network effect. If anyone's going to be able to do this, Solana has the best chance from Web3. But let me give like a real world example that we probably all remember. Another company, see if you can guess. Another company put out a phone, unlimited money, track record of success, pretty much every resource you might need to launch a successful phone that no longer exists. Can you think of it?
My brain immediately went to like the actual Google phone, but that still kind of
It's
exists.
very successful.
It's so
Yeah, the
Windows Phone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that too.
Who has a Windows Phone? Windows had the network effect. Everyone has a PC, especially then at the time. Everyone had a PC. So why would Windows Phone not catch on? I don't know, but it just didn't. And I think phones are hard. Apple somehow figured it out. They had the best thing. And well, I suppose I'm looking at this from like a US perspective. So Joel, you're right. There's the whole rest of the world, but not at this price point. At $1,000 for a phone, you are competing only against iPhone. And I think you lose. I think companies should spend more time figuring out how to include Apple in the game. If you can figure out how to eat that 30% fee or make it work within that ecosystem, I think you'd have way more success.
So let me just real quick, because you guys keep talking about the price point, which I agree with. But if the basic tenet of the phone is what you're trying to do with Solana, you could also, if you have unlimited money, and think about the financing that's available through contracts right now. Okay. So let's say, okay, Steppen's a partner of the Solana phone, and if you do X amount of things, we will hold this money for you in escrow. And if you do these functions, we'll release this over 12 months and pay it towards your phone bill that you need. Like there's 1,000 ways that people would come in and be like, hey, it's $1,000, or you pay $12 and you have to hit these achievements in our protocol and we'll help pay your phone. That right there, guys, you just solved both things, and a bunch of protocols just got new users.
That's assuming
that's an interesting idea.
To cost $1,000, guys. This is an Android phone. It probably is costing Solana $6, and if that, they're selling it for $1,000
Right.
because they can only service so many. They're selling it for $1,000 because they don't want their. What is winning? Is winning is
supply and
winning
demand, baby.
Apple?
Supply and
No,
demand.
Winning is selling 1,000 of these things and then them working, and then selling 10,000, and then 100,000, etc. So
that's a good point.
It's $1,000 because if it wasn't $1,000, they would sell out in 1 minute, and they probably will sell out in 1 minute anyways. So
yeah, they probably will.
I would just leave it.
It's a very good point.
The second, just tiny point. If we don't actually think that we're going to see an Apple crypto wallet and a Google native crypto wallet before any other crypto phone can gain mainstream, then you're crazy. Apple and Google will both have native crypto wallets and native crypto browsers. As soon as they figure out some of the rules around how do we KYC, blah, blah. Well, how do you KYC? It's built into your fucking SIM card, guy. It's the easiest KYC ever known. You go to Verizon Wireless, you sign a contract.
It's the effortless KYC. Yeah, that's right.
So you think about it. The phone is already the operating system to your life. That is not getting less. That is not going to be less of an operating system to your life. Most of us use 5 apps. In 20 years, you will live inside this world more so than you do now. It's a long-term game, and I think you just need to keep in mind that like Apple and Google are definitely well under development from a crypto wallet perspective.
I know we're out of time, and so we're going to wrap it up here. But I have one last thing to say, because it's off topic, but I just want your quick reaction, because based on what you're saying, we're talking about like the development of technology and where things are going, et cetera, et cetera. Did you guys see the press release of what the Meta Quest Pro 2 is going to be that comes out literally today?
$1,500.
$1,500. But have you seen what it can do?
I didn't even. This
No.
is the first I've heard.
Oh
of it.
my God. You got to look at it, dude. It's literally 4 times the resolution of the best one available. It has so much more processing speed. It's going to pull in augmented reality where it's not like,
Is it like for sale
bullshit.
today? Can I go buy it?
It's
Pre-order,
for sale.
or I can
Literally,
like go to
it
Best
released
Buy and
on
buy it today?
10/25
Okay.
today. Literally, you could walk out of your door
Oh, I'm
because it
gonna
was
buy it.
released this morning.
I'm going to buy it.
And it's supposed to
So-
be amazing. So, like, you talk about, everybody talks about like the Bored Ape land sale and the metaverse and all that shit, but like what they were actually trying to do, nothing existed to be able to actually try to like pull that augmented reality in, which is kind of what Joel was just alluding to, with us all living in this even more than we already do. But this is kind of that next step in like mainstream VR augmented reality. You could actually pull these things together.
So good point to bring up. One thing that I would say is that my biggest complaint about my Quest, which is behind me, is the resolution. So I'm like glad that they
4
fixed
times.
that.
4 times better.
Yeah, that's impressive. I do want to see it. I will say a headwind to all of this, because I agree that Meta is probably a lane to adoption. Meta is getting absolutely spanked by a large number of shareholders. They are pushing back, saying, if you want to do this, spin out the Facebook aspect, because I don't want to own this business. They are spending, don't quote me on this, I believe it's $30 billion in OpEx this year on headset stuff.
Oh.
And that is more than, I'm going to forget the stat, that was more than like any recent years added together. So investors are saying, stop it, stop spending all the money on this. We don't believe that this is the future of Meta. You need to spin out Facebook, because I have no interest in owning this stock when they're combined. I want to own Facebook, the cash cow. I don't want to own Meta Quest money pit. And so there's a lot of pushback going on right now. So Brad Gerstner released a letter, I believe, yesterday, and went after Facebook's voting structure. So Mark Zuckerberg has, I believe, 90% of the voting ability for that business.
What?
So he can't really be pressured. So the way it works is like his founders' shares have way more voting power than everybody else. Not that he owns 90% of the company, but he has the voting power. So he's the king, right? He can hear you out, but he doesn't have to listen. And so what they're starting to do is put public pressure on changing that, so that investors, if they don't believe in the vision, can say, hey, Mark, take a hike. I think that will catch steam, because Facebook is down 60%, while every other major tech stock, like in that category, is down 23 to 25.
Yeah.
So people are getting sick of that. I would pay attention to that losing steam, because people are getting fed up with it.
I'll tell you what, Alan and Joel can't say it because they got like responsibilities and shit, but I can say it. Not financial advice. If he actually gets voted out of voting, that'll be a great day for Facebook stock. Okay, just keep an eye on it.
But the thing is, so you'll buy, if you bought after the news, you already missed it. It's going to be up 10, 15, 20% the day that people are losing faith in his ability to make decisions. And this is a massive bet for him. I can't imagine the pressure he feels.
Wow. That's really solid. Joel, any parting shots?
I mean, it's like, what does a guy have to do? Build Facebook, and then fucking a couple years go by and like NFTs come out, and then everyone's like, Mark Zuckerberg's an idiot. Like, dude, like, we're I don't know. There's no winning in the eye of public perception. It's what have you done for me lately? And maybe that's fair. But at the end of the day, I kind of reluctantly feel like Meta is still a major player in the infrastructure of like technology in 20 years. I think a lot of people thought Microsoft was dead a long time ago, and they've never done better. They're absolutely thriving. Apple actually did die once and now owns the world. Meta launched Web 2. Like those other companies are like hardware companies first and foremost. They own the biggest brands from WhatsApp to Instagram and countless underneath that. VR will catch up. They can, I'm just not long-term worried about Meta's staying power.
So what you're saying essentially, to boil this up, is Joel is saying in before the long-form Atlantic article talking about how Mark Zuckerberg was right in like 10 years? Yeah,
I think
like it.
that is fair.
All right. Well, I'm going to play us out, boys. This was a fun episode.
I was.
I enjoyed it. I think we covered a lot. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell on YouTube, boys. Crypto Parabellum Podcast, episode 12.